This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on what your kids are spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/iHeart.
Let your imagination take flight with an AI-powered PC from Lenovo. Whether it's creating digital art, designing new software, or building a portfolio for a future career, our PCs are powered by Intel Core Ultra processors to help students unlock smarter learning and unleash their creativity. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. All you have to do is choose the one that fits your passion. Head to Lenovo.com to shop AI PCs and find your perfect companion. Plus, get 5% off when you create an education account.
Did you know that over 504 million people listen to podcasts every day, just like you? That's a lot of new customers. With AudioHook, you can tap into the power of podcasting to reach the right listeners and find your next customer. The AudioHook platform is designed to make podcast advertising simple and results-driven. The best part? You don't pay upfront for placements or impressions. You only pay when your campaign delivers the results you want, whether that's more site visits, leads, or sales. That's right, you only pay for results. AudioHook uses advanced technology to ensure your message connects with your target audience. Campaigns are optimized in real time so you can track success and adjust strategies instantly. With AudioHook, you'll maximize your spend and achieve your business goals faster. Get started today and take your business to the next level in 2025. To learn more about how AudioHook can help you achieve your desired results, visit audiohook.com/results. That's audiohook.com/results.
Vibeless, vibe-free, Tennessee, or?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yes, if you want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFM program, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryan text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Couple 13-14 pass, Common Man program. I'm Common. He's Tennessee. The legendary one, Mark Rosen, joins us now here.
Good afternoon.
In Studio A, also known as the 651 Carpets Plus Studios, the climate-controlled 651 Carpets Plus Studios. When we last talked, it was Thursday.
Right.
Where were we in the series at that point? Were we 2-0 or 2-1? No, 2-0. It was 2-0.
Yeah, because
it was 2-0 because I had Trent on Friday. Yeah,
okay.
Right.
So it was 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
And then game 3, the Wolves played a perfect game. I think the Thunder kind of realized early this one's not going to go our way. So let's sort of kind of just, we'll throttle back and wait for game 4. And while the result, obviously, for Wolves fans and the team was not what they wanted, it was a really entertaining game. It was both teams offensively shot the ball very well overall. Matter of fact, I think percentage-wise, the Wolves may have outshot the Thunder, and it went right down to the wire, and the Wolves lose by 2.
It was a hellacious basketball game. It really was. It was the kind of game I think you'd want. We all wanted to see. We've watched Indiana and New York. They resumed their Eastern Conference Finals, and those games have gone down the wire. They've had wild swings in that. Down by 20, they come back. What Indiana did in game 1, maybe the fortunate bounce and Halliburton shot, and then game 2 was the same. It's just that's the way it's been pretty much every game. Unlike the Minnesota-Oklahoma City game. And last night, they gave basketball fans a real treat last night. I mean, I can't recall the Wolves, especially their 2 reserves with Dante, finally hitting the shots that we've been begging him to hit. Nickeil Alexander-Walker hitting them from the corner. Just the back and forth. But every single time that the Wolves looked like they were going to tip the scales in their favor, I don't think they ever led in the game, did they? Every single time it looked like the scales were going to get tipped in their favor. Oklahoma City would come back. It's like watching a great heavyweight fight, the counter punching. And it just, it was one of three guys normally for OKC. I mean, it was Williams, it was SGA, and of course our guy, Chet Holmgren, who made some very big baskets, wide open looks, but some 3-point shots. I mean, he was doing it in front of family and friends, and you have that third element, and the Wolves just could never overcome that counterpunching by OKC. And you can break it down a lot of different ways. Offensive rebounds, obviously, they killed Minnesota on the offensive rebound board, and that hurt them deeply. Turnovers always make a difference.
Plenty of turnovers again, 19, I think, in the game.
Again, and especially early in the game. I think they had 7 in the first quarter, where you could see that, right away that it was going to be a different basketball game.
Of all the numbers that jumped out at me would be SGA and Jalen Williams combined for 74 points.
Right.
Randall and Edwards, 21. That's a 53-point difference in a one-score game. Their stars rose to the occasion. Ours did not. And like Teneby said, he was okay. He seems to almost to the point where when he can't do what he wants to do, he even gets more passive. And it's good to distribute the ball, but he just sort of kind of every time there were a number of times where he would get the ball, and I'm thinking, well, he's going to try to take it downhill, or he's going to do a step back or do something, and he would dish the ball off. And I know it's because of a smothering defense, but man,
well, he did. He got a lot more aggressive the second half.
Yeah,
I mean, first half he was pretty passive.
He only took, I think, 1 or 2 shots.
It's weird. This is the most out of bounds, off the wall, preposterous statement I could make. But when I was watching the coverage on ESPN before the game, I saw Julius, maybe, 10, 15 minutes for tip off. He sat down with the crew, right? With, Kendrick Perkins and I don't know who the rest of the people are, what's his name?
Right.
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And I said to myself, why are you talking to these guys? Aren't you getting in your mind, your kind of like mindset to get ready for the game? And they were joking around, and Stephen A. Smith was brought up a New York Knicks question. He was laughing and going, and it's dumb to think about that had anything to do with his performance. But man, it was, the evil twin Julius showed up last night and just did.
He's had 2 really bad games in this series. And
go ahead.
How much, how nice would it have been to have Bodega Cat's 24th quarter points yesterday?
Well, ask Tibbs why he benched him in the fourth quarter of the game before. I mean, I don't understand what's going on. I agree. Cat was that good, but he was invisible the game before. So how do you explain that? Where he has to bench him.
Also had to bench Randall.
What's that?
We had to bench Randall.
Well, no, I understand that, but it happens. Sometimes it's matchups. Sometimes it's betterment. And again, it was really great to see both, in particular Dante, just in that smooth stroke that he had from the corner, and then Naw doing his thing and really playing it, against his cousin, of course. And I mean, it was I thought the Wolves were going to find a way to win that game. I really did near the end. I thought they're going to finally tip the scales. They're going to get a steal, and they had a couple of really good chances. And that one play, I think, where Shea looked like he was about to travel, but he did keep his foot planted and threw the ball through his legs, I think to Jalen Williams, and then he knocked down a 3. That just was a killer because the Wolves the clock was about to expire. He was about to travel. He not only saved the ball, passed it on the ground to his teammate, and then he makes a 3. That was a gut punch. But there were a lot of them like that for OKC, and that's why they're arguably the best team in basketball. I mean, they have the best record. They were favored last night, and I think what Chris Finch has to sell right now is if you're a Wolves fan, the way you have to look at it is one way or another. Even if the Wolves had won that game last night, and even the series at 2-2. At some point, you have to win a game in OKC in order to win the series. So the only way you can sell this right now is to forget the fact that you're down 3-1. You just have to look at going into the game tomorrow night as a game that you have to win. That's it. It's one game. You don't think of anything else other than that, because at some point, if you say to yourself, we can't win there, well, then you're never going to win the series. And they've been a really good road team in the playoffs for the most part. And I expect them to play at a pretty high level tomorrow. Whether or not they can sustain it, who knows?
They're going to get beat.
They might, but I don't think psychologically early on. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Well, then they had no chance of winning the series. They're going to get beat. They would have got beat in tomorrow's game 5. If they had advanced to 7, they'd probably get beaten game 7. Everyone would say. And Oklahoma City is an 8-point favorite. They've been 8-point favorites in every home game they've played so far. And they are the number 1 seed for a reason. They're a really good young team that's got a high ceiling with these guys, not even reaching the prime of their careers yet. And when you look at Ant at 23, he's probably 2 years away. He's younger than Shea. He's got some growing to do still. And he's got to learn little different aspects of his game and try, the way they clogged up the middle. And, there's a lot of other little nuances of the game that, it's hard to explain, but, it was highly entertaining. And I know there's a lot of things you can break down and look at, but it's just that they just could not every single time. I thought the Wolves were going to take the lead and take that momentum away. Oklahoma City on the road, came up with a big shot, and our guy Chet had a lot to do with that as well last night. So it's too bad. They literally gave it their best shot. At least the bench did too. It wasn't like the first 2 games when no one was knocking down threes. They weren't doing anything. Randall was. Randall got outscored, as you just mentioned, dramatically. But because of the bench,
points.
But because of the bench, they still had a chance to win it.
Yeah.
They just did.
They didn't.
No, they didn't. And that's why OKC's a better basketball team overall.
Better basketball team top to bottom.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And they were going in. They were a number 1 seed for one reason. They blew out opponents all year long. Their defense, which is
it's the best in the league. And
the Wolves still scored 126 points on them last night, which is incredible in the way they shot the ball last night, and the threes as well. So,
except for their 2 best players.
Correct. Well, Ant didn't take enough shots. Randall was visible. Ant needed to get to the lane more, but here we go.
In a 2-point game, when you're outscored 53 points by your 2 guys against your 2 guys, your 2 stars and your 2 stars.
Right.
And you can't do that.
No, you can't. Not if you want to win at home.
We'll break. We'll come back on a couple of other things. I want to bounce off Mark Rosen about the game. Then we can talk about the world champion.
How about that?
Minnesota Frost. We'll do that on the other side of the break as well. Common Man program on the Fan.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
The word on the street then was, he's too country for pop. But then once I got to country, it was he's too pop for country. So I kind of never really had a place to fit in, but that's exactly how and why I fit. I just embraced that. I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Fan.
Carboni's Pizzeria wants to fuel your playoff party. Visit one of their 30-plus locations to enjoy delicious pizza and get ready for the playoff run. Find your nearest Carboni's today at carbonispizza.com.
After the Wolves won Game 3 in blowout fashion, played practically a perfect game. Number of quotes came out of the Wolves locker room that, again, I still, this is what I've been harping on this all this season, last season, forever. Here's what Mike Conley had to say. It just shows us more than anything of what we're capable of doing. So now we've set a standard for ourselves. Like, why aren't we playing with this type of effort every night? So if we don't do it the next game, that's on us. It has nothing to do with them. Effort again. And the team, that's the team's biggest problem all year is a lack of effort. Now, not last night. I'm not suggesting last night, but a lack of effort. He says it, Conley right there says, It's a lack of effort. And how many times did we hear that after games? Well, they tried harder than us, and they did this. I scratch my head and I'm puzzled, and I get annoyed by it when it's just like, well, we just didn't have the effort. The one thing you can control is effort. Nobody should out effort.
But every time you could have the best effort in the world, you could still lose because the team was making shots. And I think it's just an easy thing to fall back on. You could say that about every team in the league. You could say that about, again, you're talking about the Indiana Knicks series. How did the Knicks allow Indiana? Was it a lack of effort to come back from 20 points the way they did?
No,
I guess it was a lack of effort.
Well, right? I didn't hear it in their locker room say.
I don't know what they said. I didn't see the quotes. But what I'm saying is, when you blow a 20-point lead, no matter what the situation, so understand.
This quote of lack of effort doesn't.
I'm just saying that I think it's an easy, even for a guy like Mike Conley, it's kind of a catch-all phrase. I don't know. I mean, I think you could say that Oklahoma City came out of the game in Game 3 with a lack of effort. I think it was more of the lack of effort on Oklahoma City in Game 3 and a sense of urgency for the Timberwolves in Game 3 because they knew they had to win that game.
Right.
And we see it over and over again.
They put the effort into it. That's what Conley said.
Well, it takes two to tango. But it also takes an Oklahoma City team that's not engaged in the game.
No. If you watch the game, they were engaged, but then they knew when to pull back. They said, we're not winning this game tonight.
They didn't do it in the first quarter. They didn't pull back in the first quarter. They didn't pull back till late in the third quarter. Well, midway through the third quarter. I'm just saying it takes two to tango, Common. I mean, you can't just say a lack of...
this Wolves apologist stuff in this town
I'm not apologizing.
You're saying, I guess
I'm not at all apologizing for the Wolves. I'm talking about reality. You don't have a reality.
Reality?
Yes. You don't watch games. You don't see the effort. You don't know what's going on. and no, I mean, I'm not making any apologies. I said over and over, Oklahoma City is I've said they were a better basketball team. You asked me at the beginning of the playoffs. I thought Oklahoma City would win the championship. It's not that, but I'm saying it takes two to tango.
What do you mean? What's the two to tango?
Is that Oklahoma, the effort the Wolves put out, the desperation effort they had in Game 3, also had something to do with Oklahoma City's lack of urgency. That sometimes is human nature that coaches can't control, players can't control, and you see it happen in every single sport.
Mark, I'll give you another cliche. Again. You live to fight another day. Oklahoma City knew that game was not going to be winnable. Sometime during the first half, they knew it was over. They weren't going to be able to come back.
And why weren't they? Why weren't they engaged? Why weren't they trying harder? I don't understand. What happened to Shea? What happened to Williams? What happened to Holmgren? No, I mean, tell me, why wasn't it a lack of effort on their part in that game? Why would they allow the Wolves to do that to them? Is it a lack of effort?
No, it wasn't a lack of effort. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
But Conley said we have a lack of effort. Don't you see the difference there?
No. Okay. I don't see the effort because I've watched enough NBA playoff games to know that there's an ebb and flow. And last night we finally saw both teams playing at a very high level. And the Wolves were still... I'm more upset about the Wolves last night for not getting those offensive rebounds. That, to me, is effort. That, to me, is not being grimy enough to get in there and get that rebound. Sometimes you get, after a missed shot, the ball you get a long bounce. Team gets it pretty easy. The Wolves had that. The Wolves had a number of those situations. But I don't look at it that way. I just think that a lot of the times talent wins out. I think Oklahoma City, with their defense in particular, with the shot making they have, they were a better basketball team overall. It starts with the guy who won the MVP this year. I know, talk about all the fouls he draws and all that, which can drive me crazy too, but the guy is a brilliant basketball player. At 20, whatever he is, 26. I don't know how the Clippers ever traded him, to be honest with you. But that's okay. I know what you mean.
No, you don't.
Well, I mean, I just think that the word effort.
Here's Anthony Edwards. They outplayed us, out-rebounded us. Got more than 50-50 balls. Wanted a little bit more. Wanted it more. Why did they wanted it more?
You don't think that's a cliche? They wanted it more. How many times? What's he going to say? I mean, that wanted it more doesn't mean they weren't trying to get the ball. I mean, I think you saw how exhausted everybody was on the court. Sometimes these players also use cliches. If you haven't been around enough to know that they don't use cliches. And there's not if you want to talk to the head coach, I don't know if he used that word. I think he used a whole bunch of other things that happened in the game last night that can be broken down into X's and O's and what they didn't do. I don't know why they didn't have a man on Chet Holmgren.
Well, because they let
him
Chet wanted it more, apparently.
Well, I guess he did. And Chet could shoot 3-pointers, and he can drive the lane.
If you're in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, and you're down 2-1, and you don't want it more than the other team,
Who said they didn't want it more?
I'll read the quote again.
Oh, God. I mean, I know what you. I heard the quote.
Out-rebounded us, got more than 50 boards.
Yes.
Wanted it a little bit more.
What is that? I mean, they had the result. So if the Wolves had found a way on that play I mentioned when Shea threw the ball between his legs and it went to Edwards and he went down and scored and the Wolves ended up winning the game, does that one play signify that the Wolves wanted it more than Oklahoma City, or do they just happen to win the game? If they won the game, no one would be saying, you know what, we won despite the fact we didn't have a lack of effort. If you watch the game, it was a hellacious basketball game. They shot the lights out, and they still weren't able to win. I'm just saying there's one or two plays that ultimately made the difference. Randall stunk. There's no doubt about it. Edwards could have been more aggressive in the first half. He also had 6 assists. He did help set up his teammates. And as Kendrick Perkins said, Ant's not the reason why they lost the game. Offensive rebounding, lack thereof, and turnovers was the biggest reason. I'm just saying it's too easy to fall back on the lack of effort thing. When you lose a game by 2 points like that, and it's like talking about a football game. When we break down football games on a Monday, well, it was a lack of effort. The Vikings took them too lightly when they played that team. I don't know, or was it just a bad bounce that caused it, or just a poor play by Sam Darnold, the overthrow Justin Jefferson against Detroit.
I'll just leave it at this.
Okay.
The quote I'm talking about wasn't coming off of last night's game. It was Connolly talking about the blowout game, and his quote was, why aren't we playing with this type of effort every night? That's what he said. Okay. The veteran player, 37 years old, looking at his teammates saying, why are we not playing with the effort we showed when our back was against the wall? Why don't we do that every night? I'm just going by what he says.
I understand that. He said it. I understand that.
It wasn't last night.
No, I understand.
Last night, both teams put forth monumental effort.
It's kind of a rhetorical question. All I'm saying is those words are never used had they come back and won. I don't think the Indiana Pacers, the way they came back and won that first game and Halliburton's miracle shot, and then they went to overtime, I don't know if the Pacers were just about to say, had they lost that game, you know what? God, I don't get it. We just had a lack of effort tonight in New York. I don't understand it. We're playing the New York Knicks for a chance to go to the World Championship, and we had a lack of effort. Sometimes you just got a good bounce, too, and you play harder than the other guys at that point. I'm just saying that I'm not knocking Conley's line. I'm just saying it's an easy thing to say. Why don't we have? Well, because you don't see many games where somebody wins by 42 points in a playoff game. It just doesn't happen. And you weren't going to see it last night, obviously. From the opening tap, you knew it was going to be a much different game.
Well, I just hope they show the right amount of effort. I hope they show the amount of effort in the next game as they did in Game 3, or they're in big trouble.
Oh.
And the team...
Duh.
And this isn't the first time we've heard from this locker room about lack of effort.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's been with the team all season long, and that's been their biggest issue. Lack of effort.
Okay.
We'll take a break. We'll come back, and we'll talk a little Twins baseball on the other side of the break here on the Common Man program on The Fan.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
The word on the street then was, he's too country for pop. But then once I got to country, it was, he's too pop for country. So I kind of never really had a place to fit in, but that's exactly how and why I fit. I just embraced that. Like, yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
You want to see real effort, you'll see it Saturday night at Birdie's Golf. Birdie Golf, it'll be Flop, Sweat, and Tears comedy tour. Common and Sauce, along with Larry Mondello Guy. That's this coming Saturday, the 31st. It's the last Flop, Sweat, and Tears comedy show of the season. I'm going to give 110%. Sauce will give 50, 55, or 60. Larry Mondello Guy always gives it his all. We got a pair of tickets to give away to the show right now. Otherwise, they are available at birdiegolf.com, BIRDI, birdiegolf.com. Otherwise, the 11th caller at 1-800-320-5326, 1-800-320-5326. If you're the 11th caller, you win a pair of tickets to see Flop, Sweat, and Tears this Saturday night. Birdie Golf in Woodbury. Sauce, Common Man, and Larry Mondello Guy. Your Twins club won 13 in a row at one point. I think now, is it 13 of the last 16 or 14 of the last 17?
Well, they lost the last game.
Correct.
Of the series.
They lost 2 in a row, as a matter of fact. But they won 13 of 16 or 14 of 17, something like that. So a nice stretch that's kept them on the heels of the Detroit Tigers, who just continue to win. Tigers have the second best record in Major League Baseball behind the Phillies, and so you can only control what you do on the diamond. You can't. You can hope for the Tigers to lose, but until they haven't really hit any kind of a something. I think they're like 5-5 over their last 10, so they've slowed down a bit. But Twins have been. The bats got a little quiet the last couple of games. That's a pretty good.
Yeah, as long as they get the starting pitching. I was flipping around a little bit last night before the game even started. And Chris Paddock started for the Twins, and he gave him everything you want from a starting pitcher. He threw a lot of pitches, but I think he lasted 5+, and he was charged with a couple runs. He didn't give up any when he was on the mound, but Brock Stewart came on and gave up a 3-run homer on an 0-2 pitch or 1-2 pitch, I think it was, and that turned the game around. And the Twins bats, for the most part, were pretty silent last night, and so that's cost him the game. Eventually, it turned into a one-sided game, 7-2, but it was 0-0 in the 6th inning, I think, and before they gave up. And they're still kind of in a holding pattern for both Byron Buxton and Matt Wallner. I mean, keeps hearing Buxton's getting closer. He's on this. He's traveling with the team, but he's been slow to recover. Obviously, Correa came back from that collision and the concussion protocol, and has been, for the most part, pretty effective. I think he hit the 2-run homer last night that gave them their only runs. So back at it tonight. But I like the idea that I think Joe Ryan's pitching tonight. You look at pretty much if you look at the box score, you look at the box scores, and you go, okay, who's pitching tomorrow? It gives you a pretty good chance of giving another win. And I think even Zeb Matthews bounced back and had a pretty good performance over the weekend. So I think everyone's anxious to get Buxton, and in particular Matt Wallner in that lineup to give him a little more daily punch. With all due respect to Ty France hit the game-winning home run the other night at the game I went to, and they brought up the big kid, the McCusker, is that his name? Looks like he's Dave Kingman-like. He's 6', towering guy, but he looks a little. The times I've seen him at the plate, looks a little overmatched. He could probably hit the ball 500 feet, but you got to make contact. And Major League pitching is a little different than what you're seeing in St. Paul. So, Tampa's decent team, and they see if they can bounce back tonight. Long road trip. Yeah.
Yes. Who is it tonight?
Joe Ryan's pitching tonight. Yeah. I believe. I don't know who's pitching for Tampa. Man, I just I don't know how often you look at the standings, but I checked them out. And I was like, it's amazing. You guys always talk about biblically bad. Colorado is now 9-45.
You've got to be kidding
the Cleveland
me.
Spiders, is that the team you always talk about?
Yep.
They're on pace.
What's the record?
9-45. I mean, pretty much, other when they played the Yankees.
You'd think like the St. Paul Saints could do better than 9-45 at the major league level.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's just, the ownership there. I mean, I know people out there have been saying that. I mean, they're getting just ripped all the time. I mean, Colorado's had some pretty good baseball teams over the years. Great ballpark, great environment. But it's just a disaster right now. I mean, they beat the Yankees. They played the Yankees. The only time they drew fans was over the weekend when the Yankees were out there. And the Yankees actually lost the first game of the series out there to Colorado, but that was it. Now they've lost 8 out of 9. They're 9-45. And I mean, even as bad as the White Sox were last year, Colorado may top that this year.
There was a quote from Baldelli, and I'm going to believe what he says.
Okay.
I don't think he's just spewing cliches, which I think there's a lot of people that think these athletes just say things to say them. I hold them to what they say, including this from Baldelli. And he and I are on the exact same page. This is a quote from during the Cleveland series when we just wrapped up against Cleveland and took on Tampa Bay. Here's what Baldelli said. These division games are tough because the pitching has been tough. Every starter you run into has excellent stuff. The intensity in these games, because there's very few lopsided ball games, they become very hotly contested. There's a lot of games where one play makes the difference between winning and losing the game. I like that kind of baseball. And he and I are on the same page there. When you have hotly contested games where both teams are putting forth the effort that's required and what they are paid for, and you see where one pitch can make the difference, one at-bat, one defensive play because the pitching's good, a lot's at stake, they're division games. All these teams in the division are pretty evenly matched, other than Chicago. I mean, you look at it top and bottom. You know, if you want to rank them, you'd obviously say Tigers are the best team in the division. I think Twins and Cleveland are about the same. If you want to give the edge to the Twins, that's fine. I'd say Kansas City is in that mix. I mean, you know, three of those four teams, the one that wasn't a playoff team last year was the Twins. So the other teams were playoff teams last year. And those are the kinds of games. And these are generally lower scoring games too because the pitching is so good. And that's the kind of baseball I like. And I think you do as well. I don't mind a slugfest every once in a while. No. You're going to have your 12-8 games. But I like games where there's strategy involved. The manager has to make decisions, and you got different hitters, and you're shifting your players around, and you might steal a base here. You figure it's late in the game and might be time to sacrifice a guy now, and those kinds of games are what really is good about baseball.
A couple of the Kansas City games over the weekend, and it's exactly the way you described it: low scoring, tightly contested, good pitching on both sides, both starting pitchers. My favorite players on the Royals, you know that. I always talk about Bobby Witt. In fact, I talked to Ryan Lefebvre about him. Saw him before the game, and I can't believe how long he's been in Kansas City. Our old buddy Ryan, still been working for the Royals organization. He goes, well, not a bad, it's not a bad kind of small townish. He kind of laughed about having Patrick Mahomes and Bobby Witt on our sports teams. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah, I get it. I understand that. But I told these, Bobby Witt's my favorite player in the majors.
He still is?
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love watching him play. I just like his attitude. And he goes, he's a real quiet.
My favorite's Brooks Lee.
Brooks Lee over Bobby Witt?
Yep. Okay. Well, I mean, Bobby Witt's a better player.
Yeah, but
I like Brooks Lee.
I don't disagree with Brooks Lee. I like Brooks Lee, but I just think Witt's got that old school. And he's a hell of a player. Quiet. He's a real quiet guy. He just goes about his business. And he made a catch the other day. I mean, one of those shortstop over the shoulder sprinting between the left fielder wasn't going to catch it, avoiding a collision and all that. And he called him off, and I don't know how he made it, but he's very good. But yeah, the division's fun. It's good to see, and it's makes it a lot more pleasing than feeling like they're getting stomped on all the time by the Red Sox and the Yankees, et cetera, et cetera. And the Twins go to Seattle this weekend. Seattle's in first place right now.
Seattle's a hell of a club.
Yeah, they're playing well.
You like that Seattle club?
I don't know one thing about him. Other than Ken Griffey Jr. doesn't play for him anymore. I haven't followed.
How about Ichiro?
I haven't followed Ichiro. I think he's done. I think he's done.
What about Jay Buhner?
They have some classic
What about
names.
The big unit?
Yeah. They have some really good players out there. I have not watched 1 second of Seattle Mariner baseball this year.
Do you like parades?
I love parades.
Will you be attending the Frost Parade?
I will not.
They've won back-to-back world championships.
I know. I was flipping around trying to catch that too. Another overtime game. Right? I mean, it's just
because it was on YouTube TV. Deuce and I watched it.
Well, that's good.
Absolutely.
Well, I was watching it on FanDuel the other day, that game, and it looked like he had another nice crowd out at the X last night, and 2-1 repeating.
They opened up the club level last night.
That's cool.
Yeah, they got to like 11,000.
That's really something. That's great. I mean, it really is. It's a statement, and you guys.
The atmosphere's there great too. I know.
You
went
on Saturday, right?
You went on Saturday. Yeah, I know it's not filled 18,000 like the X, but
so what?
Just
it doesn't matter.
Like the fans that are there, like they're in it. They've got like a positive vibe. Like it's just it's a cool place to go.
Yeah, that's good. And then it's only going to should get better and better. The links are. I just ran into Marnie Gellner back in the by the coroner's office, We were both watching Program Password on the channel, and talked to her a little bit about her Lynx tonight because they got a game against Seattle. The Lynx are unbeaten, but they're playing Seattle, and Seattle's a really good team. They're 3-1, and the Lynx are getting, hopefully going to get better and better as time goes on. But I think the WNBA is already, I know Caitlin Clark's off for a couple of weeks, which is unfortunate. Obviously hurts, the league, hurts attendance, when people have bought tickets for all of her games anyway. But the Lynx are off to another good start. And, long season to go. But with Nafisa Collier, who's now, I think you guys mentioned it, she's the odds-on favorite to win the MVP in the WNBA right now.
Well, it's a little early for that.
Well, of course it is, but they put odds out for everything. That's all it means. It just means whether Caitlin Clark got hurt.
Player.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter if Caitlin Clark got hurt or not. I mean, that Nafisa Collier is still arguably the top 3 player in the league. So, but it doesn't really matter.
No, it's too early to be doing.
Way too early.
We got a 44-game season, I think, is what we have now.
Correct.
Here's a text message that it says, so when is the common man going to put forth effort and challenge to win a Marconi Award? I just sound effortless.
You make it effortless.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It sounds like I'm not putting any effort into it. I mean, I could show you the latest report card.
It's very impressive.
We're getting numbers here at this radio station, and I guess I can only speak for myself.
That's all you can. That's all you should.
The numbers have never. They're astonishing to me, and I thank each and every listener out there. And there are obviously a lot of people listening to this radio station.
I hear about it all the time in my travels. Yes.
So I guess I'm putting in enough effort to
move the needle.
I'm number one in my time slot, week after week, book after book.
You know what they say? Just point at the scoreboard. That's all you got to do.
It. So
you don't have to say anything.
Sounds like you like this Lynx Club too.
Well, come on. I mean, yes. I mean, Cheryl has done a marvelous job of kind of retooling her roster.
Everybody, somebody says, say you like this club, don't you? To Rosie, I haven't heard you say that yet on the show.
Lynx, waiting for.
So I had to say it.
You have to say it.
People want me to say it.
Yeah, they went through a bit of a drought after winning those championships. We talked about this last week, and getting the right players and the right fit, and the kind of fit her style of play. I think Cheryl Reeve could coach at any level, male or female. I mean, she's got that commanding presence. I'm not suggesting
she knows X's and O's.
She sure does.
Well, yeah, I don't think I think it's obvious that being a woman or a man, you can coach a man or a woman's sport.
100%.
Because if you know basketball, you know basketball. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Certainly she could.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's again, I always like to give more credit to the players and the coaches, but if she's won 4 WNBA titles. You win 4, you must know what you're doing.
Well, plus she's in charge of, she's a GM as well.
And
so
GM as well.
She's not just, someone saying, here are the players you have, coach them up. She's obviously hands-on with every aspect of that organization, and she's been doing it for a long time and is still as hungry as ever to continue on, which is great. I mean, I think it's a real blessing that we have her in this community, as a person, as a coach, as a GM.
You like Cheryl Reeve, don't you?
I love Cheryl Reeve. I've enjoyed her company and our conversations off the air for a long time, going back to the Lindsay Whalen and the way kind of she started everything out here and the way she built that championship pedigree here.
Here's a request I got on my personal text. It says, ask Rosen what number Bobby Witt is.
I have no idea.
Your favorite player?
I don't know. I don't know what number he is.
Sauce is trying to get you going.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he goes, ask Rosen what number Bobby Witt is, because he thinks you're being a fraud.
First of all, it's probably double digits, so Sauce doesn't know how to count that high.
Wait, hold on.
I think it's 7. I don't know. I don't know what his number is. I just look at him and
it is 7.
That's what I thought.
So then you should have just said 7. That would put Sauce in his place.
Well,
yeah. What do you think now, Sauce?
Yeah, Sauce. Lucky. Here's what else Sauce said.
Leo needs you, buddy.
He couldn't name 2 Rockies players.
I couldn't.
I couldn't either.
I'm not right now.
I don't think the Rockies manager could name 2 players.
I don't think the
Why
GM
does Sauce just mind his own business?
Because he's Leo's sleeping right now, and he's listening to the show, and he's.
Why does he want to get you going?
Louis, did I say Leo? I meant
Louis.
Louis.
Leo.
I'm thinking of the Tenebese kid. Louis. I guess it's Sauce. We're going to see him. No, I'm not going to see him tomorrow. We got program password tomorrow. I got Creases in here with my partner.
Thursday.
I'm getting my days all mixed up.
It's a hard week to get the days.
You're struggling.
It is. I am struggling. The whole Memorial Day weekend.
Speaking of Creasel, I ran into him yesterday at Fort Snelling.
Oh, you did?
Memorial Day. Yeah, I go there every year.
Yep.
My Uncle Werner, my late mother's brother, was in World War II, private first class. And he's buried there. And so I do it from, my mom would like me to visit. So I always visit. Every Memorial Day I go. I know right where the spot is. You pull in, you take the first right, and then take your next right. And I don't remember the exact number, but it's like 3 rows in, 6 tombstones over. And so I was there, and I brought Deuce for the first time. He'd not been to Fort Snelling. I would say
it's imposing.
Well, what it is it's really it's inspiring you, and you're awestruck when you're in there because there are over 250,000 people buried at Fort Snelling National Cemetery, and it's if you go by and just look at some of the tombstones, there are many people that served in the war and died of old age or whatever. I mean, they didn't die in service,
combat. Yeah.
But you find others where you'll see died January 8th, 1944. So they died during the war in combat action. And you read the tombstones and the Purple Hearts. And Creasel was there. We were just leaving, and he was just getting out of his vehicle. He and his wife and. So I saw him there. Yeah. And, I saw him and I said, hey, Creasel. And I stepped up to give him the old handshake and the hug, right? And there were cars backed up behind me. And I kind of looked back to kind of say, hey, a second. And they all just waved me off, say, you can take as much time as you want,
right.
And so, so Creasel was there.
Yeah, I commemorated Memorial. I watched a lot of episodes. I'd seen some of them before, but, the Band of Brothers, the Easy Company in World War II. And I found the old Frank, that my dad's company in World War II had put together all his stops from the time he landed at Utah Beach, and I have a picture of it. And I put it out and just said, I'm thinking of your pops today. And I was watching. You watch those shows, and granted, it's a dramatization of what went on, but they're all filled with facts of what those battles were like, and how young those kids were, and all they wanted to do was go home and play ball and raise families and do all that kind of stuff. And they interview a lot of them afterwards. And it was a good day to watch. About 5 episodes of that yesterday.
Well, you find, as I look back at my dad's family, there were 9 kids in the family. My dad was in World War II. All of his brothers were in the service, including the oldest kid. They had 9 kids. He was the oldest of Forrest, and everybody called him 40, but his name was Forrest. And he, as I was reading through his obituary when he passed away, he was in the Battle of the Bulge, Purple Heart, the whole thing. I mean, Battle of the Bulge is about as big as it gets. I mean, you're seeing some things that you don't really want to see and you'll never forget. And so I always recommend anybody to go on, and when you pull into Fort Snelling,
right,
there's always somebody at that first turn. There's always a guy with bagpipes, and he's playing the bagpipes. And when he's not,
Memorial Day.
Yeah, and when he's not playing the bagpipes, he's standing at attention like this, and he doesn't move, and he'll stand there for 20 minutes at a time without even moving.
How about the volunteers who put those American flags?
At every single one, yeah.
Tombstone. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, good. I'm glad you went out there.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Somebody else had one here for you. You like this wind chill club, don't you? Is there a wind chill club? Is that the Frisbee?
Yeah, I think that's was it Ultimate Frisbee?
Ultimate Frisbee.
Lights are going on.
Ultimate Frisbee. You like that wind chill club,
I think they're underrated.
Yeah, they are.
They've had a very successful draft.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to scout in this area. There are a lot of terrific Frisbee players who are kind of free agents who have been available, and they know how to scout them and find them in the weeds, as they say.
This text messenger says Sauce couldn't spell Rockies. You find that funny, Ronnie? Tennessee does too, and so do I.
That's a good line.
W-R-O. Okay. Sauce. I haven't seen him for a while.
Do you think New York evens the series tonight?
Man, I'll tell you, I give up trying to predict that series. I hope so. I mean, I think it's the game's in Indiana. It doesn't seem to matter.
The home teams haven't won yet in that series.
They haven't. It's high drama, that is for sure. I mean, the combination of the constant scowl on Tibbs's face. He never changes expression no matter what the score is. And, you get to know the players. You're watching the series at all, and it's a hell of a rivalry right now. And, with Brunson and Hart and obviously the big meow. And I mean, it's in Indiana with the Halliburton. And they got some shooters on that team. So, it's anyone's guess. I assume it's going to come down the wire again, and I'd like to see New York tie it up, and I'd like to see this thing go 7. I mean, I think it's a captivating series, and doesn't look like
you love New York, and you hate the city of Indianapolis. It sounds like to me.
Well, no, I'm not as much as Guardsy does.
Yeah.
But, no, I don't. I'm not fond of.
You're pulling for the Knickerbockers.
I am.
As we speak, I won't hold you to it because tomorrow I'll ask you for official prediction. Do you think that there will be a Game 6 in the Western Conference Finals?
I don't think there will be, but I think the Wolves will be approaching it with the kind of effort that they need.
Let's hope so.
Tomorrow night.
For me, as long as if you lose, I don't care. I mean,
Just
I'd rather
go
win.
out.
But I just don't want to hear after a game a guy say, "Yeah, we just didn't put a kind of effort, and the other team wanted him." I hate that. Whether you mean it or not, don't say it. Say something. Why don't you just say, the other team played better than us tonight?
I'd rather hear that.
Because that's generally what it is.
Yeah, it is.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Tenby, thanks for having me.
Hey, great job.
You as well. We enjoyed our visit. Stick around. Big Ticket JG there next year on The Fan.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Minnesota!
Good night, folks, and good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
You like that? You like that?
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
Let your imagination take flight with an AI-powered PC from Lenovo. Whether it's creating digital art, designing new software, or building a portfolio for a future career, our PCs are powered by Intel Core Ultra processors to help students unlock smarter learning and unleash their creativity. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. All you have to do is choose the one that fits your passion. Head to Lenovo.com to shop AI PCs and find your perfect companion. Plus, get 5% off when you create an education account.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. On this week's episode of Math and Magic, I'm sitting down with the one and only Bobby Bones. We're exploring the power of audio.
Yeah, I don't fit into one specific hole. I think that is what endeared me to listeners. That's why I'm here now, because I talk to people that grew up like me, have sensibilities like me, and have loyalties like me.
Listen to Math and Magic, stories from the frontiers of marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast.